everyone will be given 2 minutes to give their final comments after these questions. We are going to ask these questions and give each respondent 1 minute, and we'll move on. We will start with the supervisors again, and if we could start with former Mayor Marr. What would you do to address the major issues confronting our local ambulance, and how would you prevent them from happening again?
Okay, thank you. This is huge. So at the last town, not the last town board meeting, but at a recent town board meeting, not too recent, probably almost 2 months ago, a very alarming subject came about, and there was a request made from the town of Montgomery Ambulance Corps. And it pretty much terrifies me that we haven't had that come up in another town board meeting since. And I think at the end of the day, that's something that we need to address immediately. And I think the issue is twofold. It's function and funding. We need to figure out and work with the town of Montgomery Ambulance Corps to figure out how it's going to function moving forward. Is it going to be its own district? Is it going to be a public-private partnership? Is it going to be the town that takes the lead? No matter what, the town of Montgomery cannot pass the buck on this. We need to be absolutely neck deep into solving this issue, and we need to figure out the function, then we need to figure out how we're going to pay for it. And by we, it doesn't necessarily have to be all in the town of Montgomery taxpayer. There's a lot of things that you can do creatively, you have a massive network to do that, to tap into potential public-private partnership or look into other grant funding.
Thank you, former Mayor Marr. Supervisor Winchell, what would you do to address the major issues confronting our local ambulance, and how would you prevent them from happening again?
Since I know very little about this, I would get the right people at the table. And so we're talking with the firehouses, but up to the ambulance corps, but also everything comes down to money. You know, we have to find a way to finance it, and a way to work with it. The private sector work with, we're looking at New Windsor, we're looking at Newburgh, we're looking at other areas, who's doing what. I think getting the right people at the table, because I'm a contractor, I really don't know much about it. All I know is I know our citizens need an ambulance to come to when they call.
Thank you, Supervisor Winchell. Mayor Leahy, what would you do to address the major issues confronting our local ambulance, and what would you do to prevent them from happening again?
Well, I'm very familiar with the fact that the ambulance corps is very important to the community, because back about 4 years ago, the town stopped allowing them to buy gas from them, and we welcomed them into the village of Maybrook, and we still give them gas today. I know what their struggles have been. We are a senior community. We have the evergreens that are here. I just found out recently that the Maybrook Fire Department is no longer doing medical calls because there's lack of volunteers. So that's a big concern for me as well. I think we should be working with the Montgomery Ambulance Corps, and we should be doing as much as we can for them, because we do have a senior community here, and we do need a good response time to bring people if they need help.
Thank you, Mayor Leahy.
Thank you.
Candidate Hoyt, you have the microphone, sir. It's on. Okay. What would you do to address the major issues confronting our local ambulance, and how would you prevent it from happening again?
Well, like everybody said, we have to get to the table. We have to figure out what the duties are going to be of the local ambulance corps. How much money are we going to fund it, and what are at the end what are we going to get for that money? Because the town used to fund the ambulance corps, and then they went out and started billing privately, and I was under the assumption when that happened, the town could no longer give taxpayers dollars when they started billing people. And now they're coming back and saying they don't have enough money, and that we got to come back to the table and try to figure something out. And I think that I think we all agree that it has to get done fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Hoyt. Candidate Cockburn, what would you do to address the major issues confronting our local ambulance, and how would you prevent it from happening again?
Okay, the ambulance corps had a program and a plan in place, and the ball was dropped. First we built the 2-bay garage with grant funding that was secured, and the plan was to convert one of the upstairs above the attic space above the food pantry to a call center, because you have volunteers leaving their job and getting changed in McDonald's after work and sitting in McDonald's parking lot with their phone waiting for calls. I would restart the progress. I would get the grants and funding back in. I would get those plans out to put a bathroom and a hazmat shower in and I would treat the ambulance corps the way they should be treated, because that's an imperative service to our community. You need people then and there. There was an accident next door to my house, and they couldn't get there. They were overtaxed that day, and I watched my friend get airlifted out in a helicopter. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Cockburn. Candidate Feller, what would you do to address the major issue confronting our local ambulance, and how would you prevent it from happening again?
Well, the first thing I would do is get the fire departments together and check out the feasibility of incorporating the ambulance corps into their firehouse. If discussions didn't go in the right direction there, I would seriously consider having a tax district where we collect money from the taxpayer to fund our ambulance corps. We have to buy new ambulances. We have to have some kind of communications, and it has to be funded. It has to be funded by the people who are using the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Feller. Candidate Brown, what would you do to address the major issues confronting our local ambulance, and how would you prevent it from happening again?
So in the industry that I work in, it's one of the most dangerous industries, and with 2 little kids, I can tell you I worry about if I ever have to call an ambulance, how fast they will come. The ambulance corps to me is one of the most vital industries in the town, along with the fire departments and our service areas. I was very disheartened when I heard that they were $300,000 in debt, and they didn't know if they were going to make it until the end of the year. And I'm not exactly sure, as a taxpayer, if that was ever solved. So the biggest thing is I would like to have open conversations publicly. These issues that come in front of the town board, they need to be stated on the agenda, and they need to be continued until they're solved. So is this issue solved? I don't know. I would truly hope so. And if I get in office, I would really like to have those on the agenda so that way everybody can see what's going on and ensure the conversations continue with the ambulance corps so that way they do stay funded and their doors stay open. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Brown. Candidate Warrington, what would you do to address the major issues confronting our local ambulance, and how would you prevent it from happening again?
Well, I believe basically that all the residents in the town here feel that the ambulance corps is vital. I don't think there's a matter that they're not willing to support it financially. I think we just have to work out the details and to see what legally we can do. If they can collect from insurance companies for part of the fees and the town can subsidize, I think we need to allow that to continue on, and we just need to make sure that however we support it, we do it legally, and it's just a matter of taking care of the issue, you know, and doing the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Warrington. And Candidate Keenan, what would you do to address the major issues confronting our local ambulance, and how would you prevent it from happening again?
This is one of the issues I brought up earlier in the quality of life, but I've already spoken with the ambulance corps leaders prior to them speaking with the town boards, and we discussed options. So hopefully I was able to help them a little bit. And it might come down to pass, there's going to be an ambulance tax district. If the other options don't work out, that might be the last solution. I know it's hard to balance volunteers and paid, but if you're going to respond, you have to have coverage. You have to have effective leadership. And then if you establish a tax district, there'll be accountability across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Keenan. We will now move on to the next question. And Candidate Brown, how about we start with you? Is that all right?
Let's go.
Okay, we're going to give you 1 minute to respond, and here is the question. Last Tuesday, October 15th, there were 9 public hearings or meetings at different locations in town. Our outdated town/village format prohibits public involvement continuously. On top of that, we have 24 different taxing entities/districts in the town of Montgomery. If elected, would you support a true consolidation conversion? Versation.
Can you repeat the question?
The whole thing? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so last Tuesday there were 9 different public meetings or hearings at different locations within the town. Our outdated town-village format prohibits public involvement continuously. On top of that, we have 24 different taxing entities, districts in the town of Montgomery. If elected, would you support a true consolidation conversation?
Yeah.
Oh, microphone.
I guess I'm not really supposed to answer this question. Okay, so I can tell you that if there's 9 public hearings in different locations, my biggest question would be, how does one person get to 9 different locations? I can tell you that my family, we go to almost every board meeting, every town meeting. I've been to the village of Montgomery. I've been to the town meetings. So how is it that one person can truly stay on top of the pulse of it all? If we need consolidated areas, like the consolidated sewer district they were speaking about, I don't know why we don't have a consolidated sewer district if the town if the town owns it and operates it. But there's several different areas that we need to look into and work together in the future to determine what is best for the residents. Because if one resident can't make every meeting, well then there's a problem, because every resident should have a voice.
Thank you, Candidate Brown. We go to Ron? Yeah. Candidate Feller, if elected, would you support a true consolidation conversation?
I would support a true consolidation conversation, but I've been to those conversations before when I was in office, and it wasn't on total consolidation, it was on issues, it was on police, fire department, we discussed that, and his services, picking up garbage, whatever. The towns and the villages are separate entities. We've gone through this many times. The villages are territorial. They have their own boundaries. They have their own constituents. They have their own board. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but you know, these towns and villages did not pop up yesterday, and they've been in business for a long time. So I think if we do this, we should center on 2 or 3 of the major issues again that we can all agree upon to discuss, and not have a consolidation on every single subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Feller. Candidate Cockburn, if elected, would you support a true consolidation conversation?
Conversation, yes, absolutely. I would commence it by opening up the town hall, not just to public meetings, but to restart the past program that I had, where I would have seminars, forums, films. I would have speakers come in and talk. No one really has, as you can see, the responses, has like a formulated idea of what that means, total consolidation. So let's bring it before the public. Like affordable housing, I had seminars, people understood after attending the seminars, watching the films, hearing what was done elsewhere. I would definitely support a conversation, and I would provide the means, the information, and the proper data for people to make their own decisions about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Cockburn. Candidate Hoyt, if elected, would you support a true consolidation conversation?
Yes, I would. I would always welcome conversation on things that can save money, as long as we can really save money. I think the question is it's hard for me to understand, because I think a lot of these taxing authorities you're talking about are special districts which are set up to make sure that the people that benefit from that particular district are the people that are paying. So the consolidation on some of those issues I really don't understand. And even like fire districts, right? Fire district is a geography-based thing that has their own commissioners, and they make their own decisions. I mean, so I'm just a little confused on the question, but no, there is things that we should talk about: consolidation and shared services. I had a conversation with the highway deputy, or Mr. Mears, the other day, talking about maybe we should really be looking in with the county on shared services on some of these roads that the county pays the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Hoyt. Could we get a microphone over to Candidate Keenan?
Thank you.
Candidate Keenan, if elected, would you support a true consolidation conversation?
I'll support any conversation, but true consolidation, I'm going to be like Ms. Cockburn and Mr. Hoyt down there. You're going to have to define that for me. Last week, the 4 fire districts had a state set date for their public hearings. We didn't arbitrarily set those. Other people maybe could have moved their public hearings. Maybe we should look at doing public hearings where people can come in and call in and on Skype. I don't know, but consolidating what? I mean, I said before, shared services, yes. Some services, maybe you can consolidate. Having a discussion, absolutely. I agree.
Thank you, candidate Keenan. We'll now ask the supervisors the same question. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Candidate Warrington, if elected, would you support a true consolidation conversation?
Yeah, I definitely support conversation. I think wherever there can be cooperation and where it's a mutual benefit, I think is always a great thing. We need to respect the different jurisdictions and those people that are put in those positions to manage those services, accordingly. We need to respect that authority also. But I think there's cooperation and a conversation is always in the welcome.
Thank you, candidate Warrington. Rod, you have the mic. So Supervisor Winchell, if elected, would you support a true consolidation conversation?
Yes. Been working on it with the county and our villages for quite some time. I look at the first thing, see what their biggest expenses, where we're bleeding the most at. That's what I target that first, and that's it's something we have to address to survive in New York. We're having thousands of people leaving every week out of New York. We can't keep raising taxes. We have to consolidate. We have to get realistic here. The 24 special districts, I'm not sure, we've got about 34 special districts. And I'm not sure what that 24, we have about 24 unfunded right now, drainage districts and things like that, but I'm not sure what that's about. But if we're talking about firehouses and things like that, okay, yeah.
These are the questions posed.
Yeah, no, I got you, I understand. So any consolidation is gonna help, say in New York, because we're the highest tax in the land, and people are migrating out. We gotta do something, fast.
Thank you, Supervisor Wenzel. Mayor Leahy, if elected, would you support a true consolidation conversation?
I think consolidation is something that should be approached on a yearly basis at least, and you should be meeting with the villages and discussing these things. There's always cost savings and there's decisions that have to be made, but there also has to be a group effort of having the mayors from the other villages cooperating with the town supervisor and the boards cooperating as well. I think that it's something that should be broached by all of the town as a whole, and it's something we should look at and always entertain if it's brought to our attention. Specifically, we don't have anything specifically that we've talked about, but just as a whole, if we're talking about consolidation, yes, consolidation should always be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Leahy. Former Mayor Marr.
Thank you. Welcome to New York State. We are a home rule state. This is how it works. We have 1 million taxable districts, and when I was elected mayor, I worked with Mayor Leahy. We both got elected around the same time. We would meet regularly on shared services, and we successfully put into place some programs that saved both of our taxpayers some money. We actually worked with the town supervisor as well on the code red services back in the day when it was beneficial. Since then, it's been a little different, but definitely when I was mayor, I put those meetings into action. And if elected supervisor, we would all get together and save where we can. In terms of consolidation, 30 seconds, great. This all starts with education as well. New York State, when Senator Larkin was in office, promoted a program and it was passed. And a lot of residents may not know this, but you actually have the ability to take part in consolidation and dissolution. And dissolution is a word that we need to use with consolidation, because consolidation isn't just we're going to consolidate. No, it involves actually having a dissolution of an entity to create a shared service agreement. And the issue that comes up with people is they're willing to pay just a little bit more for that service. And that's an important discussion we need to have.
Thank you, former Mayor Marr. We're going to move on to the next question. And candidate Warrington, why don't we start with you? Medline and Sailfish project, as designed currently, are projected to pay $5,617,000 in annual local property taxes. $3.9 million and some odd dollars are projected to be annual payments to Valley Central School District. That equals 712 homes with a market value of $250,000. If we lose out on these projects, what do you propose we do to counter the tax benefit they would have provided? In 1 minute.
Well, I believe, if you're looking at money that isn't coming in yet, that would potentially come in, you would naturally you'd have to make up additional expenses for the future with the existing tax base, or you have to plan ahead for what type of future tax base fits into the future that our town wants. Whatever type of, whether it's warehousing or other industrial base and employment. But that tax base would either come from people, or individuals, or it'll come from businesses.
Okay. Thank you for your response, Candidate Warrington. Candidate Keenan, if we lose out on these projects, what do you propose we do to counter the tax benefit they would have provided?
Can you read the whole question?
Sure. Medline and Sailfish projects, as designed, currently are projected to pay $5.6 million in annual local property taxes. $3.9 million are projected to be the annual payments to the school district. That equals 712 homes with a market value of $250,000. If we lose out on these projects, what do you propose we do to counter the tax benefit they would have provided?
Well, until they're built and they're paying taxes, there is no tax benefit, number one. Number two, I don't hear any mention of tax relief, because what happens is if they're paying their full tax, and I'm assuming this is their full tax, some places have a tax to the max policy, and you're not going to see tax relief. And people can do whatever they want with numbers. What would I do for the relief? There is no relief. They're not paying taxes today. All right? It's not there. It's imagined money until they're paying and writing a check. And that's what any business that wants to come here. It's not just Medline and Sailfish. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Keenan. If we could go down to Candidate Hoyt. And if we lose out on these projects, what would you propose we do to counter the tax benefit they would have provided?
Well, there, excuse me, there again, I don't know if there's anything you really can do. I mean, you're either going to have the ratables or you're not going to have the ratables. And whether there's the residential boom doesn't seem to be going on now as it was in the past. And then you also have to look at the difference in the services, which is demanded. There is a demand of services no matter what new development you have, but what kind of demand are you getting versus residential versus commercial? But to answer that question, I don't know what you could do on a town board level to make up for a rateable that you're not going to get, except probably have to be a lot tighter on your budgets if you want to keep the tax rates in check.
Thank you, Candidate Hoyt. Candidate Cockburn? If we lose out on these projects, what would you propose we do to counter the tax benefit that they would have provided?
First of all, I'd be more than happy. It keeps me up at night. We wouldn't be losing these projects. They're a detriment to the community. You can see what happened in Middletown with mile after mile of farms turned into unreusable buildings, parking lots, vacant mess. We can do better. If you meet me after this meeting and look at a conglomerate, Residents Protecting Montgomery added up all these projects, the amount of road traffic, truck traffic, it's going to take away from the community. And it doesn't matter how much they would give as ratables, when they do, it's not going to contribute anything. There is no integrity in either of these projects, and without a comprehensive plan and a moratorium to get those $4 million that the town never applied to, that Amazon did, into farmland preservation.
Time.
Thank you, Candidate Cockburn. Candidate Feller?
I went up, I know the question.
You know the question.
I went up to the warehouse that's being built across from ShopRite the other day, and that warehouse is going to be 87,000 square feet. I looked at the footprint of it. Medline is going to be 12 times that footprint. That equates to 5 Yankee stadiums being placed next to each other. If anybody went down to Yankee Stadium. What are we going to do? Maybe we're going to have to revise the zoning to attract a different type of structures and a different type of environment that we can live with a little bit better in that particular area in both places. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Feller. Candidate Brown? Would you like the question read?
This time I'm good.
Okay.
So what would I do to counter the tax benefits? Well, first off, pretty simple. There's no benefits. They're not here yet. Let's hope that they don't come here because they're not being good neighbors. But think about this. If we're worried about how to counter the tax benefits, and I'm not trying to stray from the question, but what about the expenses that we're going to have to pay for the Village of Walden residents when Sailfish's wastewater treatment plant goes offline and we now need to pay for their water? The 7,000 residents in the Village of Walden, we need to pay for their drinking water, which is vital to their daily life. The expenses on the impacts of the roads and these services that these mega warehouses are going to require, the land values of the homes near these developments, and quickly, before I run out of time, think about this. The labor that they say that these mega warehouses are going to provide, it's easy. If they don't come here, they can go to the existing opportunities that we have. It's just a matter of what people want to do for work.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Candidate Brown. We'll now ask the supervisors the question. And if we could start with Mayor Leahy. Mayor Leahy, if we lose out on these projects, what do you propose we do to counter the tax benefits they would have provided?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I think that these companies that are coming in right now, they have an obligation to do the right thing by the town and the residents. I do have some concerns about the Bluefish project because of the wastewater treatment plant that they're putting there and where that effluent's going and how it's going to affect the people up in Walden. How are we going to make up for this? I am not sure how we're going to make up for it, but I do know that Exit 5 is the gem of the Hudson Valley in my opinion, and that we do have some good land in Montgomery. We should look at the zoning, and we should do some extensive looks at that and make sure that we're doing the right thing. That's basically it for me.
Thank you, Mayor Leahy. Former Mayor, well, okay, Rod, Supervisor Winchell.
Okay, I did about 30 minutes on this. There was 11 projects in 2019. There's 25 in 2018. There's about 40 in front of the planning board. So just on Bracken Road alone, you're looking at about 5 or 6 projects alone. Just I know the people who had those the Stabiskis and all those properties there. The property on 747 where Blue Water, Shellfish, blah, blah, blah. That's Haber's property. He bought that in like 1970. That's about the 4th project that went on that land that never got done. That was the old McDonald farm. There's a lot of history here, but the taxes paid on a lot of these properties as soon as they bought it, like September 27th, Medline bought that property. They doubled the taxes on that land and automatically went to $34,000 from $16,000. That's losing the ag exemption. So the school needs money, the town needs money. We want pavers, we want to pave roads, we want water and sewer. Scotts Corners has no water and sewer, so we don't want to raise taxes. We need some sort of jobs. I'm a manufacturing guy. I'm not crazy about warehouses, but we consume a lot of product here.
Thank you, Supervisor Winchell. Former Mayor Marr.
Thank you. So this question strikes at the very heart of our leadership ability and what we should do going forward. Every now and then you hear this argument, what are you going to do to replace ratables? Well, we can't lead like that. We can't lead out of fear. We can't lead out of what ifs. At the end of the day, we will find a way. And if the public is saying at large, and they are, RPM is the representative of this issue, sure, and many others, but there's a lot of people in this community that I've talked to that feel this way. And as an elected representative, it's not our job to dictate what we think is best for you. It's our job to listen. And if enough people are standing up and shouting, hey, we want to think about something different, we have to figure it out. Nobody up here has the answer to that question because it's going to be difficult to find, if at all. But we need to work at it. We need to listen to the taxpayers, and we need to come up with a solution. And if we can't, guess what? Warehouses are always still going to want to come here. So we need to have a discussion, and we need to listen to the people and really put it to light.
Thank you, former Mayor Marr. This brings us to our last question of the evening, and I would like to start with candidate Cockburn. Considering the fact that the building inspector's job has increased because of all the new construction, what are you planning to do to increase the number of inspections of new construction, as well as spotting violations in established buildings as they occur in the township?
Well, for one thing, the building inspector, there should be more than one. They should be more empowered. We need to have local laws and code on the books. There's no property maintenance laws. There's things that are missing that even if he did inspect, it wouldn't make that much of an improvement to properties and their immediate neighbors. When I was in office, we had 2 full-time and 1 part-time building inspector. There's 1 now. And with this amount of projects, you'd need to have at least 3 full-time or have better code in place from the get-go so that they're not going around, chasing their tails on things that we can't even remediate once they find something. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Cockburn. Candidate Feller?
I spoke to the building inspector months ago when he was by himself, and then asked him what do we have to do to get our backlog of fire inspections completed, and he said you have to go to a code enforcement, just the first 2 courses. So I was actually thinking about doing it. We do have another building inspector working for the town now, and he's been on board for about, 8 months, and he's doing a good job. He's cutting into the backlog. There are people out there that we should request for a bid, get a qualified person, set up in an orderly manner where we get back on track, because we can't have commercial buildings that are not inspected. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Feller. Candidate Brown? What are you planning to do to increase the number of inspections of new construction, as well as spotting violations in established buildings as they occur in the township?
Okay, so I understand that currently we have subbed out all of our commercial building inspections to Fire Associates with the town. I think that was a great idea moving forward. I think we need to look and put out an RFP to other companies to ensure that we're getting a fair bid price. But we need to ensure that looking at these engineering firms, I'll just say the word, they need to have the staff that's going to be able to cover these inspections, because these big warehouses that are projected and all these other warehouses, they need to be kept their feet to the fire. The SWIPs, the stormwater pollution prevention plants, they need to be inspected to ensure that the runoff does not occur. The fire inspections, I can keep going on and on about all the inspections to ensure that these developments are being good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Brown. Candidate Warrington?
Yeah, I believe that currently, rather recently here, the town board has reevaluated the fees for a lot of the building inspections. And basically we weren't charging enough to have a staff to do the inspections. So I think we've been moving in a positive direction there. And I think there is sort of a plan in using third-party specialized engineers that are paid for by the escrow accounts of the developers and not being paid for by the homeowners in the town. So I believe we're headed in the right direction, and we just need to be diligent and follow through with it. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Warrington. Candidate Keenan?
Yes, I believe what I would do is continue what the town board has started to do, as others have said, with the Fire Associates, especially in the area of fire inspections, and they haven't been done for a long time. I don't understand, as Ms. Cochran brought up, we used to have 2 full-time, 1 part-time. Things I don't understand. Highway Department used to have 14 full-time people, now they have 8. And then they're expected to do more with less and less money. I don't understand that. And then the same thing with the building department. We're expecting them to do things, we gotta back them. We have to support them, And if we have to contract to get it done, then that's what we're gonna do. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Keenan. Candidate Blake. Get him a microphone.
Yes, like everybody's already spoken, the town board has moved on that with hiring Mr. Farr and his associates because he brings associates with him. And I think we are digging into getting the backlog done, and he has the expertise to do a lot of the work. And the beauty of hiring outside help is when things are booming, you pay him.